Trapped by the belief that I'm not good enough, bound by the limitations and the lies that consumed my world, this was me. It wasn't until I took the biggest leap in my life to know and trust the power within. And it was at that moment I made a choice. My past will not define me anymore. Hello, I am Teri, and I know I am not alone in this. Over the years, I have found that the number one mistake that we make is that we get in the way of our own success story. Yes, I said it. On this show, together we'll tackle limiting beliefs, self sabotage, getting stuck, fear, doubt, overwhelm, and the imposter syndrome. Join us on this journey designed to transport you beyond your limitations to a world where anything is possible. This is Talking with Teri. Hello, and welcome back to Talking with Teri, where we have powerful conversations to transform your life and your business. And today's guest is Tracy Gold. She is an entrepreneur, speaker, and TV presenter. She's created her YouTube channel, Tracy Gold Fashion Tips, to inspire women over 40 to look and feel fabulous regardless of their age. In just 2 years, she grew her following more than 20,000 subscribers with 2 million views. And that's quite an accomplishment, folks. If you do not know, this is incredible. Tracy is a vetted on-air guest host for QVC and has been handpicked by Katy Perry to represent her shoe collection on QVC. Tracy recently started the Tracy Gold Show to offer her audience inspiring interviews and lifestyle tips that will help them thrive in midlife and beyond. Welcome, Tracy, to the show.
Thank you so much, Teri, for having me.
It is a delight to have you. And so for those that don't know you as well as others do, that you're followings, I would love to hear a little bit more about you, kind of what brought you to where you're at today.
Yeah, you want the Cliff Notes version, I gather. I am 47, so it's I mean, when you said before the show, oh, we want to talk about the challenges. I'm like, you want the Cliff Notes version? The real like quick, short story. Yeah. So my funny accent, just so that we can get that out the way. I was born in the US, but I lived in South Africa for most of my life, and so that's why I sound the way I do. But I grew up with Southerners, so my husband says whenever I'm around Southerners, I start to roar. So I don't even have a straight South African accent. I've never really fitted in, Teri. It's just been one of those things, and I've come to accept that. Yeah. So I moved to New York in 2018. I came for the first time and fell in love with it and decided this is where we needed to be. And I called my husband and I said, we need to move. And he was like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, it took a little longer than that. But anyway, so I moved in 2018 to really, explore career opportunities, because in South Africa, it's a very small country. And I felt that I had gone as far as I could go and wanted to explore more. And, I came up with a lot of challenges, some of which we'll talk about, just logistics and things that I had no idea would be obstacles. But I was very, very excited because at the beginning of 2020, of course, we know how this all turns out. But the beginning of 2020, yeah, I was contacted by, the Katy Perry team, and they said that she had handpicked me to represent her shoe collection, which is a funky, amazing collection and really suits my personal style, and that I would be on QVC. And I was supposed to meet her on March 25th, I think it was, at the studios at QVC, and then everything shut down. So, it's been a very kind of crazy time and trying to figure out where I want to be and where I need to be. But in the interim, I got the idea of starting a show that was beyond just fashion. So I'm a fashionista, I'm a fashion designer, stylist, and YouTuber, but I also have a huge love for people and women and their stories. And so I started the Tracy Gold Show, which is a lifestyle show for women over 40, 50, 60 and beyond, to really inspire and help them to feel not so alone. And I think also, as we're coming out of this pandemic, we're coming out new women, and we're going to live our lives differently. And I just think that we need to do it together.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like, I think as a lot of folks that are listening, that 2020, yes, a lot of folks, were able to make, lemonade out of lemons, right? But
Sure.
for a lot of companies and a lot of businesses, it was really impacted by the pandemic and being shut down. So how
Yeah.
have you really kind of navigated through that for your own to
Yeah.
continue to build your
I have
brand?
to say to you that I haven't. I mean, I'm just being honest. It's like when you're supposed to be on television and you're paid to do in-person presentations. I mean, like many people, Terry, I didn't think it was going to last as long as it was. And in New York, I'm in New York City. It was intense. I mean, we're only now starting to open up, and I have to remind people. They say, "Oh, it's happening so quickly." I'm like, yes and no. We didn't reopen.
Yeah.
We had a little bit of indoor dining, and then that shut down. We were losing like 1,000 people a day were dying in New York. I mean, that's no joke. So
Mm.
we shut down, and we shut down hard. And it was really challenging, and I had no idea it was going to continue as long as it did. And QVC were saying, okay, well, we're gonna try out with our big creators, so like the Katy Perrys, the actual creators of the brand could go on Skype. And then that was successful, and so they said, okay, now we're going to allow on air guests, and that's going to be in September. And then that didn't happen either, and in fact, I'm still waiting. So
Wow.
I had to look at
Yeah.
other ways. I had to look at other ways. I created a new business called Midlife Tech Geek that helps those who are technically challenged to navigate this new online world and grow their businesses online, because many of us were not born with cell phones in our hands. And
Yeah.
I actually secretly, not so secretly now, am a tech geek, and I really love technology. So I created a business to help people to navigate that. But
Yeah.
in saying that, it's just the work I'm supposed to do is the work that I was starting to do in 2020,
Yeah.
and so it's been very challenging.
Yeah. And it sounds like you've been able to supplement what you were doing on TV, and hopefully that TV comes back soon.
Sure.
It's interesting that I was being interviewed on several different other television shows, and we did everything virtual. And so it was
Yes.
kind of an interesting, element where it was like, okay, I'm here in my home studio, but being interviewed.
Mm.
So I'm curious, I'm curious why they haven't went that direction, with
Well,
the.
QVC did. So
Oh,
they have gone, and in fact, they're very hesitant to go back to in-person presentations. So that's very interesting, because Pennsylvania is a different story. So each state
yeah.
has their own thing. So they have got their guests. In fact, a very good friend of mine, Judy Goss, she's presenting like crazy. I mean, in her backyard, and she does home decor. So that actually really works well for her. And so they are. And in fact, QVC have said that their customer really enjoys that. I'm not sure how long that's going to last. I think we're all ready for a bit of glitz and glamour now.
Mm.
I'm done with seeing people in their sweatpants and in their own in their own homes.
I'm so done with that. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. And yeah, so I goodness, I don't know what else to I hope that shifts and changes for you soon.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can change that. But however, you are, doing some incredible things with some of the other things and that you're
Yeah.
doing. And I think there's a lot of gifts in this situation, and there's a lot of things that we have to overcome. And
Yeah.
you're right. It's something that you may not have been thinking about before, or even recognizing like that, like your little superpower that you have within you, and continuing to use that as a way to
Yeah.
get out there and get in front of people and have an
And
impact.
Terry, yeah, and Terry, let me just say as well, the challenges for me were not just with COVID. So when I moved to New York City, so I'm a US citizen. I was born here. I have an American passport. I have an American birth certificate, but I did not have a social security number. And it took me a year.
Wow.
It took me a year. I had to prove my identity for every year I was out of the country, which was like 46 years. So I had a whole bunch of those challenges. And then my husband is South African, so we had to go through immigration. And even though we've been married for 20 years, it was very stressful. It was incredibly stressful. And the insecurity around that, and we didn't know if we were going to be separated. And yeah, so and then finally everything started coming together in 2020, and I was like, yay, hallelujah, this is wonderful. And then COVID hit, and then everybody's like, oh, it's because of COVID. I'm like, no, 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 this is just an extension for me. This is like just a continuation, you know.
Yeah.
That being said, I think that when I look back on 2020 and I look back on the challenges that we face, it has, and I mean, I'm, you know, having been brought up in South Africa and lived in South Africa for a long time, we're hardy people because we've had to be, right? We've had to be entrepreneurial because there are no jobs. We've
Yeah.
had to create new ways of income. And so for me, that is like second nature in a way. And so I'm also very grateful for the hardiness that it's given me. I used my time, I learned new skills, I taught myself a whole bunch of stuff. I created online courses, like, you know, like I learned a whole lot of things. And I think I have become a lot more I don't know, I don't even know if it's persistent because I've always been very tenacious and I've always been, but it takes a lot more to knock me these days than it used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I truly believe that we are never given more than what we can handle. And there's times when I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? You know, there's been times in my life
Mm,
where I'm like, okay, bring it. Like, what else can you do right now at this point? Like, just like
yeah.
everything feels like it's falling apart. And I think
Mm,
in some of those times, and some of the clients that I work with, like, you know, it feels like everything is falling apart. But what we
mm,
don't realize in that moment is things are falling together. It
yeah.
just may not be the way in which we had planned it. And some of the, you know, high achieving women, and it sounds like you're one of those ladies that, we get stuff done, you know, like we are
Yeah.
tenacious, we are, you know, motivated, we're driven, and we're not going to go down without a fight, right? And so
Yeah.
I do feel like that is those things, those moments where, um, you know, it gives us that insight, but it also
Mm,
says, you know what, I'm being tested right now. What am I going to do with this
yeah.
moment?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the next best step forward. So
Yeah.
good for you for not giving up. And I think that gives a lot of folks a lot of hope, because even when it feels like everything's been taken away, or that, you know, everything is, uh, falling apart, that we can continue to do the next best thing. And I
Yeah.
know that I truly believe that this, next 6 months to the next year is really going to be transformative, as
Oh,
we
yes.
shift and just from an energetic perspective. I love talking about the energy of everything, and I just think that this is going to shift, and it's going to be, powerful, and it's going to be dynamic, and we have a lot to look forward to as well.
Yeah. And look, let's be honest, there are a lot of things that need to shift in the world, right? And I think that it's bringing, this is what I'm seeing that's so interesting on my show is that women are coming out of this going, okay, if, I'm lucky to be here, number one, because friends of mine died, family members of mine died. What are we going to do with these years that we have left that we're so blessed to have? What are we going to do with them? And how are we going to use them powerfully? And I think that is, I'm seeing that on my show and in the women that follow and listen, and the listeners. And I think that's a very powerful thing. The other thing, Teri, that's been a very big learning curve for me is that I am a doer on steroids. I really enjoy doing. It makes
I
me
love
feel
that.
like I'm in control. And the thing about especially what the pandemic highlighted is that I am not in control. I'm in
Yeah.
control of what I choose to do with things, but I am not in control of the outcome. And, that has been one of the biggest things for me, and to truly trust. And, you were saying that things feel like they're falling apart, but they're actually coming together. And I think that I have had instances, little glimpses where I feel so I'm a faith person. So I see little glimpses where I feel like God is showing me, just hold on, just wait. I have a plan. And the big reveal's coming, right?
Yeah.
And there's going to be a reason why. And there's simple things, like simple things. I remember during the pandemic, I mean, women were not buying clothes. I'm a designer. They were not buying clothes. They were not buying,
I
I felt
was.
like I
I
couldn't even,
was. I was
okay,
still.
I couldn't even talk about clothes really, but I could talk about beauty. So I just got this like really clear message: start doing videos on beauty. and makeup and looking good for Zoom and things like that. So I did that. And then just the other day, I was doing a proposal and they were like, hey, do you have any live footage of stuff? Like, we don't do much fashion stuff, but do you have live presentation stuff on beauty and accessories and jewelry and lipstick? And I'm like, yes, I do, actually. You know,
Yay.
so
Yeah.
so the thing is that often the things that we think are a waste, the things that we think have been completely that haven't worked, sometimes are our biggest assets and are
Yeah.
things that are going to catapult us into the next kind of season of our lives, and it's going to come in ways that I had never imagined. And I think that has been a very big learning for me, is to let go of that control. And some days I have good days and some days not so good days with that battle of lack of control.
I agree. And I think that's a powerful statement because I think a lot of women entrepreneurs out here, we have this false perception of control, right? Like we want to like,
Yes.
okay, I'm doing this, right? And we get stuff done. And I love how you said that. What did you say that you were like um what did you say? I can't think of the term you just said. I should have wrote that down. But just being out of control and being like, okay, here it is, and needing that
Mm,
control. And I just think that a lot of women in this place and space is that's the biggest lesson is
yes.
letting go and trusting and having faith. And
Yeah.
I think that's waking people up to be like, okay, I thought I was in control of this, but maybe there's something bigger beyond me
Yeah.
is helping guide us. And what if, and I have to believe, and I was joking the other day, I was like, okay, maybe I'm over here smoking my hopium, but I just have to believe that good is going to win, right? And that
Mm,
light is going to evolve out of this, right? Like,
mm,
and so as we are going through this place, the lessons that our people are learning, the insights, the awareness. I was telling someone the other day, I kept a journal through this process, and I kept a journal for like all the gifts that it gave through me and my family, all the gifts that it gave me through
mm,
my other business, and then all the gifts that it
mm.
gave me through this business. And I there's 7 pages total right now, and there's only 2 things that were negative for me and my family and the experience. And it's like
Wow.
I'll take that, like I'll take that, and I'm just
Yeah.
going to choose to focus on the really positive things. And so it's not easy
Mm,
to do, but the more that we
mm.
can focus on the things that are working, the things that we do desire, it can
Yes.
kind of shift us out of that place of like the doom and gloom. And
Yes.
this is happening, to us versus happening for us, right? And I think
Yes.
there's like this, I do feel like there's like this collective consciousness that this energy is
Mm.
like it's mounting and it's building and building and I think in this next year I think we're gonna be seeing things that may just blow everyone's minds of like some amazing things that are happening that are coming down the pipe
Yeah.
for us, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
So what is
Yeah.
so what is like one thing? What is one tool, one tip, one strategy, one area that we could if the listeners go away with this and say, okay, this is like a little juicy little nugget here that they can use to
Mm.
implement in their life, what would you say to them?
I think that so, for women who are like me, who struggle with the doing aspect, I mean, I think that there are some people who are doers on steroids like I am, and then some people
Too much on
who
steroids.
doers on steroids. And then there are some people who actually need to step into their space, and actually take action. So I'm hesitant to say, let go of control, because it's all going to because it depends on which kind of person you are, and which traps you fall into. Like, I'm definitely the doer on steroids, and so letting go. And one of the lessons that I have learned is that when I feel that happening, when I feel it coming, and I can feel it, Teri, I can feel it in my body, I can feel it in my mind, I know it. One of the best things for me to do is walk away.
Love it. Yes.
It's really the thing I have to do. I have to actually let go, because I feel like that's when God's going, okay, girl, I got you. Just let go.
Yeah.
And it is very hard for me to do, but it is very it's necessary. And I'm seeing that come up over and over and over again for me. And luckily I'm able to do it quicker now. I'm able to recognize it and go, oops, okay, here it is, let go. And it doesn't mean do more things and make more of a list, because that would be my tendency. It's actually step away from your desk, danger zone. Go for a walk in Central Park. Go to your favorite thrift store. Go and meet a friend for coffee. Like, okay, so the things that we can do now. Now we can, right? So now go and do those things. And that has been very helpful for me. For those women, and generally these are clients who come to me also from Midlife Tech Geek, because they actually need to step into their own power and they need to step into the forefront of their businesses. So for many women, like being on camera is natural for me. For many women, it's a very scary thing. And this whole Zoom thing has been a complete and utter freak out for them. For those women, I say, do it anyway. Do it anyway. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. And even for me, like with my show, with Instagram, with things like that, I made a deal with myself. I'm like, I cannot do this if I'm going to get perfectionist, like insanely perfectionist over everything. I have to say, to do my makeup like it is enough. The lighting isn't perfect, but it's good enough. It doesn't all have to be perfect. And sometimes I think actually just good enough is more than enough to connect with your audience, to reach your goals, to do what it is that you're wanting to do. So just step into that space.
And when you step into that space and not have everything planned out, not have everything perfect, the authenticity that you bring shines, right? Because I think I used to be that person where I was like, oh gosh, I have to have it perfect. I have to say the right thing. And it just became too stressful. And it's like, okay, there's going to be things that happen. There's going to be situations that are beyond my control. I can't control it. And sometimes I say things that's not, the right way and to say that word, or, and it's just like, people are either going to love you or not love you. And those that love you, fantastic. The ones that don't, it's okay. Like, and next, right? But it is one of those things that I agree with you. I think a lot of women, still to this day, a lot of the women that I work with, the problem that I cause is I help them step into their power. And when they do, I truly believe that when we're stepping into our power, because we're here to have an impact. I was speaking yesterday in Dallas, and I asked the audience of women, I said, how many of you here, they're all women entrepreneurs, how many of you are here to make an impact? Of course, the entire audience raised their hand. I mean, and we went into the entrepreneurial world, most of us, to have a bigger influence, to have a bigger impact in the world, to leave a legacy, to do it a different way. Otherwise, we would have stayed and had a job, right? But we chose maybe not the easier routes in order to do that, but it's really about being seen and heard and stepping into that space. But you're absolutely right. People are terrified to either speak and or be seen on camera. And so that just doing it anyways is brilliant, because I truly believe practice makes progress. And the more we do it, and you were, it sounds like you are a natural, but for some folks that are not, like myself, it took me probably a solid 2 years of doing Facebook Lives before I was like, okay, I can relax a bit. Okay, I think I figured this thing out. Like, okay, but it just took some practice. And it is like a muscle that just requires that. So gold nuggets from Tracy Gold, right? Where whether you're the doer on steroids, or whether you're shy and reserved and maybe just a little timid to take action, gold nuggets on either side for those folks that really encompass where you're at in your journey and in your path, and taking the next best step. And it's okay if you don't have it 1000% figured out.
Absolutely. Teri, also to that point, just I want to say one other thing is that it actually isn't about you.
Yes. Oh, that's
and
good.
this I find is such a helpful tool, because when you realize it isn't all about you, it takes the pressure off, right? If you are just pitching up to connect with people, to be real, to create a space, to share what you have, to share your knowledge, then it's not about you. And for me, that's really helpful, because I believe God works through me. And so all I need to do is pitch up and God will do the rest. And so even on days when I'm not feeling my best, when I'm not feeling like, yay, I can conquer the world. And, I do have those days. I'm a very positive person. I'm a very upbeat, like most people know me as being that, but I also have down days. And it's okay to have that. And it's okay to be real with that. But you just have to pitch up and the rest will happen.
I love it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Show up. Just simply make the choice to show up, right?
Yeah.
Wonderful. This is so good. Thank you so much for being on here with us today and sharing your wisdom and your tips and your strategies. And then, where can folks follow you and see what you're up to?
Yeah, so I have a couple of different businesses, but my main focus right now is the show. So tracygoldshow.com. You can go to the website. Don't Google it. You're going to find Tracy Gold from Growing Pains. I'm not the same Tracy Gold. So Tracy, I do know her though. I knew her. I was growing up with her shows when I was a kid. And then on Instagram, also Tracy Gold Show. You'll find me. It's easy to, pretty easy to find me on
And we'll put
Instagram.
all that information down into the show notes as well. So you just
Perfect.
click on there and go directly to her, check out what she's doing, and continuing to be a contribution. So thank you so much for
Thanks,
being the light
Teri.
in the world and really stepping up and stepping into what you are called to do, right? And so I
Thank
think
you.
truly the more people step into that calling, step into that knowing, and have a
Mm.
bigger impact, we can together raise the vibration. We can together impact more people. So thank you so much for what you're doing to contribute to this planet.
Thank you so much.
I am so grateful that you joined me for this episode. If you've enjoyed this, then there's just one thing that I would like you to do. Click to subscribe and leave me a rating and review. As my way to thank you, let's connect for a free consultation. Just reach out to me at talkingwithteri, that's TERI.com, to book your time.